Are the Scots ready for the Boks? That is the question which I'm going to ask and hopefully try and answer to some degree on this video. Your thoughts in the comments down below. Give the video a thumbs up and I would love it if I would earn your subscription. I cannot wait already for the first proper weekend of November Test matches. I mean, it was great. The weekend just gone. We've got a couple of games just to kind of whet the appetite. And yeah, now I'm buzzing for, firstly, Friday night. It all gets underway with Ireland against New Zealand. That's going to be a banger. And it all ends with Scotland hosting the world champions at Murrayfield. There's going to be the bagpipes and the a cappella anthem. There'll be tears flowing. You'll get Edinburgh completely mobbed by green and gold. It's going to be a great atmosphere up there. I wish I was there. I'm actually going to be in Amsterdam this weekend. I've got to find a bar to go and watch this game in. But I'll be doing my updates on the channel. Don't you worry about that. I cannot wait for the match. It should be really interesting. And what chance does Scotland have? What team should they pick? What is their route to victory? Could it be done? Well, I think the first thing I'd want to say is Scotland are legit. They're a proper rugby team. And they have depth and talent on a level that they haven't had historically. And they're in a very good place. And actually, when I look at what it is about Scotland that I think gives them more of a chance now at even beating the great South Africa double World Cup winning team, they've got a shot. I don't expect them to, but they've definitely got a shot. And one of the big reasons for that, ironically enough, is because of the URC. Because they play regularly against these South African players. They understand the South African mentality, the South African style of play, much more so than when they used to play them once a year or every couple of years or at a World Cup. The mystique and aura will have just broken down a little bit when they play. You have a Springbok laden Sharks pack that comes and plays at Edinburgh, or Glasgow will, as they did for the URC final, go away to Loftus Versfeld and win on South African soil. Taking all those experiences that they've had for the last 3 and a bit years now, and then having that just having the muscle memory of coming up against these players will give them, just even subconsciously, a psychological edge that maybe they haven't had in years gone by. And I think that definitely elevates their chances. I think the URC has been brilliant from that perspective for Ireland, for Scotland, for Italy, for Wales, and actually for South Africa as well. You can say it's going to be a great occasion. There are limitations to having only 2 professional teams, Edinburgh and Glasgow. Firstly, there's only a certain number of professional players you've got to pick from. But the flip side of that is the level of cohesion that Scotland have, because they've got so much of their national team which play together, train together, hours every day. I mean, Tuipulotu and Hugh Jones, the centres, how many hundreds of hours have they got together for club and country, training, playing? Little things like that make a big difference. Ben Darwin, former Australian international, has done a lot on this since he stopped playing rugby. He looks at the analytics of rugby and he's identified that cohesion is massively important and massively undervalued. And I think it's a big reason why Scotland have got a real shot in this game. They're coming off the back of a good win against Fiji, 57 points to 17. It's hard to judge how good a result that was because it wasn't Fiji, was it? I mean, they're not able to pick, for various reasons, or most of their biggest stars that are playing in France or in the Premiership or elsewhere. They're not able to pick them, which is a real shame. So it's not the Fiji that was there at the World Cup, but they beat the team that was in front of them, dispatched them, in fact, and scored 57 points, won by 40, 8 tries. And what I like about Scotland and that victory was all 8 tries were scored by outside backs. Well, wingers, fullback, and the outside centre scored all of the tries. And I love that because their whole game plan is built around getting the ball into the hands of their danger men. And I love that. And I'm an English fan who, our wingers hardly saw the ball at the weekend. So I like the mentality that Scotland play with. It is their route to victory. Obviously, the difficulty is when you play in South Africa, you're against an oppressive defence that are going to be in your face and massively physical. And you're not going to be having a set piece that has things going all its own way. Scotland's line out at the weekend, for example, was excellent. It's going to come under a lot more pressure against the Boks. The last time Scotland beat South Africa, it was 2010, 14 years ago. And talk about psychological impact. It's why the URC is so important, because not a single one of these players ever has a memory of beating South Africa. So the URC is the only time that they experience victory against these kinds of players, and in some cases against these players. And that's why it's so big. But it also is a psychological edge for South Africa because they've got all that muscle memory of beating Scotland, even when they're under pressure, which they were for a big chunk of that game at the Rugby World Cup in the opening weekend in Marseille. I was there for that match. It was brilliant, amazing atmosphere. Scotland really took it to South Africa, especially in that first half. But the things I remember were, a couple of things. Scotland not taking their chances. Darcy Graham and Duhan van der Merwe between them should have combined and scored a try that would have put them ahead at half time. I also remember Scotland winning a scrum penalty in that first half. But 60 minutes to 80 minutes, South Africa just cleaned them out second half and eventually went on and won relatively comfortably. It was 17-3. And what I remember more than anything was the just ferocious nature of South Africa's defence. They shut Finn Russell down. And that is what is coming Scotland's way at the weekend. But they've got a shot. As for who they will pick, I mentioned Finn Russell. He will come back into the team straight away at fly half. Blair Kinghorn will come in at fullback. Ben White, I'm expecting to come in at scrum half. Personally, I would pick George Horne to start scrum half. But Ben White, I'm imagining, will start. So 3 changes in the back line. They weren't available the weekend just gone due to the fact they play outside of Scotland, in France or England. But they've all had a rest weekend. I know Blair Kinghorn played for Toulouse, but hopefully he's come through that unscathed. And the 3 of them can all slot into a team, which I don't expect the pack to change. I think it was Scotland's first choice pack. Here's the one thing, though. I don't know who's going to be on the bench. I've just picked 8 names because I don't know, really. And that is probably my biggest concern when I look at the Scotland team. I look through that team and you've got some brilliant scrummagers. Xander Fagerson's so important for Scotland. Pierre McScooman is great as well. Duhan van Merwe and Darcy Graham, class players on the wing, proper finishers, great centres, good halfbacks. Blair Kinghorn is absolutely class. Guys on the bench, Dylan McRichardson might be in. By the way, the South African Scotland, the Scotland South African player, that just adds another lovely little dynamic to proceedings, doesn't it? But as for the bench, I don't know who's going to be picked. And they're missing the Gray brothers, which is big. Do you need the experience of Jamie Ritchie because you're lacking a bit of experience with some of the younger guys? Or do you go with the younger guys who are big physical specimens, don't have the experience, but maybe don't have the fear either? I don't know. I don't know how you go, but that is my concern. Can Scotland live with South Africa for 80 minutes? Because I feel like their starting 15 is really good. 16 to 23, not quite so good. As for, and when the 2 teams come out later this week, I'll go through this process. I'll pick a combined 23-man squad. If you had all the South African team, all the Scotland team, you put them together, who would make a combined team? I'll go through that process when the teams are out. But I've just gone through it now in my mind. If Rassie Erasmus had access to all of the Scotland players, which ones might he consider putting in his squad? I've said consider because I'm not saying they would all get in, but these are the ones that I think would be under consideration. Rassie Erasmus would sit and think about these players. And that's a great thing from Scotland's perspective because 10 players I've picked out of their 23, I think Rassie would go, I need to have a look at him. I need to have a think about him. 4 of them in the pack, 2 props. That's big. That's big for Scotland, bearing in mind the physical challenge that South Africa bring. And 2 back row players. When you think about the physical, ferocious nature of, Siya Kolisi, Peter Steph Toy, Jasper Wiese, the fact that I think these 2 guys would have to be considered, I think that's massive. And it speaks to the strength of Scotland that 6 of their backline, I would say, would have to be considered. I'm not saying they would get in, but they would be considered. I think there are some that possibly would get in to a squad. Well, I think quite a few of these would get into the squad. In terms of getting into a starting 15, an actual starting team, which do you reckon? I kind of think that. And this is only in consideration, by the way. I'm not saying they would get in, but serious consideration. Obviously, Pierre Schoeman is not going to get in ahead of Oxenjay. Xander Fagerson with Frans Malherbe out. Xander Fagerson could. For me, Xander Fagerson right now, if we were picking a British and Irish Lions team for this weekend, he's wearing the number 3 jersey for me. So with Franz Malherbe out injured, Thomas, potentially Xander Fagerson could get the tight head prop jersey. Rory Darge, I did consider over Sia Khaleesi. I think Rory Darge, give him a couple of years, and Sia Khaleesi a couple of years older, and that'd be easy to make. Right now, you'd probably still go with Sia. Finn Russell, I think I'd go Pollard. I'd probably go. Would I go Sasha or Finn Russell is brilliant, and you'll never know the alternative. But I think sometimes Finn Russell gets a bit of a bad rap. Take that World Cup game in Marseille, by the way. He got shut down by South Africa. No two ways about it. He also wasn't playing behind that Springbok pack, and he wasn't playing with all the space and time that gives you. And I just think Finn Russell's brilliance maybe won't be appreciated sometimes, maybe by South African fans, because when they really see him, he's under massive amounts of pressure, being chased down by Peter Steph Toy. If he had Peter Steph Toy, one of his enforcers, taking care of business in front of him, I think then you'd see what Finn Russell can do. But I probably wouldn't pick him. Blair Kinghorn and Xander Fagerson, I think, would be the ones that I would consider. And again, with no Damian Willems, I think I might pick Fagerson and Kinghorn. We'll see when my combined team comes out later this week. We'll see. I won't say I would. I guess my overall point is Scotland are underdogs, probably significant underdogs. And if you played the game 10 times, Scotland might win 1. But that means there's a chance. And I think Scotland will need South Africa to play under par, come out a little bit rusty, and they'll need to play absolutely on top of their game. And if that is the case, they absolutely can win. But I think they'll keep it relatively close, probably for an hour, and then try and hang on. I'm thinking of the game in the Six Nations. They came away from Dublin thinking they should have won. They went to Ireland against a fully loaded Ireland team and mixed it with them. This is a really, really good Scotland team. Could they get their first win since 2010? Not favourites, but it's not an impossibility. Bring on the match. I will see you on the next video. Give the video a thumbs up. Leave your comment down below. Hit subscribe.